Okay, in the previous video, we talked about what gerrymandering was. That's drawing the districts in the House of Reps to intentionally benefit your political party. So just show you a couple examples of like gerrymandered districts to show you kind of how silly some of these districts end up looking. And remember, all of these districts are drawn for a certain reason, to either include or exclude certain people to benefit your political party when you draw them. So this used to be Florida's 22nd district, whatever shape that is, pretty crazily drawn. The green is all one district. That's Maryland's old 3rd district. Again, pretty crazy shape. And this is one of the most gerrymandered districts ever. This is the Illinois 4th district, which is literally held together by a highway median that runs down a major highway outside of Chicago called I-294. And look, there's different techniques that the state legislatures can use when they gerrymander their districts. They can engage in what's called packing. This is like when you're drawing districts, and this would be like the example here, is that you basically stuff all of your opponents into a district, right? So you're going to happily put all of the red dots in one district. But by doing that, you're essentially creating a situation in which the blue dots will then have the advantage in all the other districts. And the red dots and the blue dots are supposed to represent the individual political parties. So when a state legislature engages in what's called packing, you'll basically just put as many of your opponents in one district as possible. You'll happily give them the advantage in that district, but then your political party will be the advantage in the others, hopefully like electing more representatives from your party throughout the entire state than the other. So that's one strategy. The other strategy is called cracking. That's the strategy over on the far right. That's when you just try to divide up the opposing party in every district to make them sort of like the minority. So instead of putting them all in one district, you're just going to try and make them the minority in every one of the districts. So again, like you're not changing where the dots are. You're just changing what dots you're including in the districts, right? Okay. So there are 4 rules of district drawing. So there are some basic rules and guidelines that the state legislatures have to follow when they gerrymander. The first is that you have to put the same number of people in every district. And this was decided back in 1964 in the case of Westbury versus Sanders. So again, you'll notice the districts currently for Pennsylvania down at the bottom. Some of the districts are bigger than others. District 15 is enormous. District 2 and 3 down here are super tiny. District 12 is tiny, but they all have the same number of people. Just when you get out to the middle of the state, it becomes more rural. So you have to go further out to capture what today is about 764,000 people. So one of the rules is that you have to have the same number of people in each district. And today that's about 764,000. All right. The second rule is that the districts, the shapes that you draw have to be as geographically compact as possible. So this is part of the Shaw v. Rito Supreme Court ruling in 1933. So what does that mean? It just means that you have to do your best to keep the districts as close together as possible. So, for example, District 16 is in the western corner of the state. District 16 doesn't come all the way across into like eastern Pennsylvania. The argument would be that that district would just, the people in the one end of the district would be so different from people at the opposite end of the district. So you have to kind of keep them as tight as possible, right? The third rule is that the shape of the districts have to be contiguous. So what does that mean? It means they're like one solid shape. So for example, you could start here and you can trace all the way around without bringing up the cursor. It's like one solid shape. It doesn't like start here, stop, and then continue separately on the other side of the state, right? It's like one continuous shape. We call that contiguous. And the other is that the districts can't be drawn in a way to intentionally hurt the voting power of minorities. In fact, today, race can't be taken into consideration at all. But this is from an important civil rights decision in 1960 called Gomillion versus Lightfoot, where the state of Alabama was intentionally drawing their districts in a way to make the African American population the overwhelming minority in every district to prevent African American candidates from getting elected to the United States House of Representatives. So the other major thing is you can't draw the districts in a way to hurt the voting power of minority groups. It is important to note, however, that the Supreme Court has decided that if you're just drawing these districts to benefit your party for partisan advantage, for partisan gain, there's nothing that stops them from doing that. So as long as you follow the rules, it's okay to rig the districts in a way that will benefit whatever political party is drawing the districts at the time that the districts have to be redrawn.